What bad road habits do other drivers do that wind you up? I think we've all got our pet peeves. There are some drivers out there that seem to go the extra mile to wind everyone else up. Now, one of the key things to remember as a good advanced driver is you're responsible for your driving, and in no way should you try to correct or educate other drivers, because what happens is they drag you down to their level of idiocy and then they beat you with their experience. Basically, we get into a road rage incident, everyone gets wound up, and we basically become another dangerous driver on the road. So when we're confronted with these idiots, we have to rise above it. We have to adjust our driving style maybe to compensate for their stupidity. And we just hope that some of those drivers may be watching this video, or maybe this video was sent to one of these drivers. And that's a little hint. If you know someone in your family that's guilty of any of these, maybe just drop them a little link to this video and suggest that they watch it. Whenever we do surveys, the biggest thing that comes up frequently is tailgating, where the car behind you is driving too close. Now, these drivers seem to be completely oblivious to the fact that they have a stopping distance. And the minute we have to do an emergency stop, we know they will be straight in the back of us. Lane discipline was a big thing that kept cropping up, with people just being in the wrong lane. Now, in cities, lanes can be quite complex. There's lots of different routes to take, and you do need to be in the correct lane in advance. On roundabouts as well, we still see a lot of people in the left-hand lane going right round the roundabout, causing all sorts of problems and confusion for everyone else. They just don't understand how a roundabout works. Another pet peeve, and it's something that's happened to me, but not too often, but it is really annoying when it happens, and that's when you're overtaking someone and they accelerate. You were behind a car, and in my case, I was behind a car that was trundling along in a 60 zone at 40 miles an hour. I didn't have a particularly powerful car, but going from 40 miles an hour then reaching an overtaking speed was quite possible and quite doable. But as soon as I started this overtaking maneuver, that driver sped up, and he was doing about 65 miles an hour. I actually had to abandon the overtaking maneuver, and that could have been extremely dangerous. It took a lot longer on that main road to overtake or perform an overtake, and if I hadn't moved back in when I had, I really don't know what the consequences would have been, or what speeds we would both have had to have got up to. So a lot of these is just down to a driver's ego. They feel that they have the right to be in front of everyone, that they have the right to have their bit of road and it belongs to them, and no one should merge in or overtake or upset the flow of their driving in any way, shape or form. And then they get really aggressive when something happens, when other drivers use the road correctly. Merge in turn also winds people up. So this is where you come off a main road and there's two lanes of traffic and they're merging. Now, the first moan that people have made, and I quite agree with this, is people don't know how to merge. They're not indicating, they don't allow you to merge in turn, or they just try and cut you up and push their way in, or they wait for the very end of the slip road in order to merge. Whereas it should work very much like a zipper, seamlessly with the traffic just blending together. Now, there's another camp of drivers that don't think anyone should use that second lane, and they get really offended at people going in that second lane, jumping ahead of them, when actually this was part of the road planning. It's been done deliberately to reduce congestion further down the road. And there is nothing wrong with using both lanes and merging in turn, but some drivers get really agitated at that, and they won't let the drivers in, or they move out and they block that other lane just to prevent any other driver from gaining an advantage over them, when actually it's just contributing to overall congestion on our roads. And we really do need to try and educate people to use all of the available lanes, including using those slip lanes, and try and educate the drivers that get offended or upset at drivers driving correctly using this part of the road. Now, lane hogging is frustrating, especially where people sit in, say, the middle lane, and in the UK we can't undertake. So that creates a big bottleneck of cars behind. And I've seen drivers undertaking aggressively and even gesturing at the driver they're undertaking. I've even seen drivers overtake and then cut in front of the car to try and force them into the inside lane, making various gestures using the fog lights or the hazard lights or their indicators to try and indicate to this driver that they're just causing problems for everyone else by hogging that middle lane. Now, the psychology is subtle. A lot of drivers are in the middle lane because they don't like changing lanes. lane. They are really nervous drivers. There may be a junction coming up that they know they don't want to end up on. So sitting in the middle lane, they've saved themselves that little bit of stress, completely oblivious to the fact that they are causing such a problem behind. If that describes us, then we just need to practice changing lanes. We need to accept that other drivers will allow us to move in and out of the lanes if we indicate in advance and give intentions of what we're going to do. I was following a friend once and they didn't use their indicators at all. We had no clue as to which turn was coming up, and it was fairly consistent throughout this journey. And when I confronted this friend at the end, they merely said, well, would that have helped? They had no idea that indicators seem to give other drivers a bit of a clue as to their intentions. And I'm sure they're not alone. A lot of drivers do not use their indicators, or they use their indicators far too late. They've practically started the maneuver before they even indicate. The general advice that's drummed into us as a driver is mirror, signal, maneuver. Mirror to observe what's in the road behind us, what's around us. We make a decision. We then signal our intention to move out, and then we do the maneuver. There is a gap between signalling and maneuver. We've got to give other drivers a chance to respond to that signal that we've given. Once again, we can get really wound up. We can beep our horn at these drivers that don't use their indicators, but they're not going to understand that we're beeping because they didn't use their indicators. They're just wound up. There's a driver beeping at them behind. We've become the aggressive driver, so we've become a target in their mind. Again, we just have to rise above it. Let them go their own merry way, oblivious to the fact that they're not indicating. And we need to hone our skills of observation so we can anticipate what drivers are going to be doing. Using mobile phones, but we can extend that. Any sort of mobile device that is distracting the driver, fiddling with the radio, fiddling with the sat-nav. If it causes them to drift out of their lane, or just lose focus and attention on the road, they're presenting themselves as a major hazard to other road users. Then you've got the 40-mile-an-hour club. These do 40 miles an hour everywhere. On main roads where the speed limit is 50, 60 or 70, they'll trundle along at 40 miles an hour. And then as soon as they go into town and it's a 30 zone or a 20 zone, they're still trundling along at 40 miles an hour. So I'll let you debate in the comments as to how dangerous that is and what sort of driver typically does that. In my experience, it tends to be the older driver. They just have their little set routine and they're quite happy trundling everywhere at 40 miles an hour, completely oblivious to how dangerous it is with their ability levels when doing it in towns and built up areas. You cutting people up is another annoyance on the roads, especially where people change lanes really suddenly in front of us, causing another car to have to brake. And it is annoying. But if we're honest, we've all done it. We've all misjudged something, or maybe there's a turn coming up that we desperately need and we just panic, and maybe we've not checked our mirror as thoroughly as we should have done. So we've made a mistake. We make mistakes. We make allowances for our mistakes because we understand why that mistake was made. When a driver cuts us up, we just tend to view them as an aggressive driver, and we can get really wound up, flash our lights at them, sound our horn at them, and make ourselves another target for road rage. Slow driving. Now, there's nothing particularly wrong with slow driving, but if we are trying to force the driver behind us to travel at the speed limit and they are determined to travel beyond the speed limit, we're not going to educate them. We're going to become a target for road rage. And we're just going to become another annoyed driver on the road along with the person that's behind us. It's usually just best to give way to these idiots, to let them speed off at whatever speed they want to do. Remember that we are not responsible for other cars. We're not educating other drivers. We can't educate these other drivers. We may also be following a car that's driving very slowly, and it may just be they're in an unfamiliar area. They might have screaming kids in the back of the car. They might be distracted legitimately, but we need to give a little bit of empathy to these drivers. They may be under duress, extreme stress, and that may be why they're driving slowly. They may have missed their turning. They may be completely lost, or they may even be having mechanical problems with the car. So let's just show a little bit of sympathy to these slow drivers. And as an advanced driver, we can just overtake them when it is safe to do so. They're out of our motoring lives and we're out of theirs. We've not created any animosity or a road raging. And general aggressive or reckless driving, we are not the police. We're not enforcers. We can't control other drivers on the road or execute justice on the behalf of all the other motorists. We just need to let these idiots go. If we've got a webcam, there are ways we can submit that webcam to the police to let them take action and correct this driver. But we certainly shouldn't start flashing our lights at them, pursuing them, and try to educate them to be a better driver, because we're wasting our time. We're going to get annoyed and wound up. They're going to get annoyed and wound up, and we're going to make ourselves a target. We'll also not be rising above it. We're being dragged down to their level. We'll basically end up doing exactly the same thing, trying to keep up with them in order to keep flashing our lights or warning them. There's probably a pet peeve or something that really frustrates you that I've left out of this list, and if there is, please let me know in the comments. Do you have a driver in your family that's guilty of one or more of these annoying traits? If so, send them the video, share it with them. Be tactful. Maybe suggest that we learn something from this video and we think they would also benefit by watching this video. Please boot the like button if you found this video useful. If you've not subscribed, and a lot of you haven't, please subscribe, because that does help the channel to get out there. And I've lined up this video and this playlist that you should find really interesting. Thanks for watching. See you in these next videos.